Hey folks, today we're going to be looking at Nations, the dice game. This is a new game by designer Ruslan Hakanson, and it's published by Lautapalit.fi. It's a Finnish publisher. It's distributed by Asmodee. Nations, the dice game is a pretty fast-playing, obviously, dice game that is all about civilization building, and it plays quite fast. As I said, it can be about 10 to 15 minutes per player. It supports anywhere from 1 to 4 players, so there's actually a solo mode, and let's just go ahead and jump in and play. I'll explain the rules as we go. So I've already set the game up for 2 players. Here we've got Rome. They're going to be our starting player, and we can tell that because they've got a 1 here next to their round overview card. And the second player will be Egypt. They've got the 2 here. If we were playing with more players, we'd pull more boards out of the box. I just put the other 2 on display here as Greece and Persia. And their player colors are also set by the nation. So Rome is going to be red and Egypt is going to be green. Here we've got a score track for your victory points and for what are actually called your books. We can see that the green player, Persia, they're the second player to start the game, so they actually start with more books in a 2-player game here, 2 more books than Rome. So they'll start with 3 and Rome will start with 1. Other places of note, we've got the market here. Players will be using their dice to acquire new technologies, leaders, wonders, and even various colonies, territories that provide them benefits. These are the stacks that we use to refill the market over the course of the game. There's 4 stacks representing 4 ages of civilization, and that's the 4 rounds of the game, so it moves pretty fast. 4 rounds and we're done. We do the scoring. Here we've got the resources, all sorts of dice of various colors, and some chits that represent permanent resources that you can acquire along the way. Each player has the same board, even though there's a different color and nation depicted. It's all the same. Everybody gets 5 white dice to begin the game. Egypt's got their 5 white dice. We'll roll them at the beginning of the first round. Additionally, they have 2 chits, a money chit and a reroll chit that they start with, and they can use those each round. So the only last thing to explain here is that we've sort of got an event tile, and what we do is we get 1 for each age, so 1 for each round, and we'll reveal that at the beginning of the first round. And those tell us a little bit about opportunities relating to having our nation deal with famine and war, and it's about time to start, so let's get Rome going here. So before Rome kicks off their first turn, what we're going to do is we're going to reveal the tile here for famine and war. So for this round, it's going to take 2 food to avoid famine, and if you do that at the end of the round with unspent dice or chits, you will get 1 victory point, and it's going to take 1 sword to be able to win your nation's wars, and you'll get a victory point for doing that. Okay, so Rome is pretty much ready to go to start the round. The very first thing you do to begin the round is you roll all of your dice. So we'll give the dice a quick roll and we'll organize them. We can see they've got 2 coins, a food, a stone, and a sword. They've also got this extra coin here that they can spend and a reroll that they could do later in the round if they so choose. Looking at the market here, we can see the various tiles that are available in this round. What this tells us is that everything in this lower row costs 1 times what it's asking for. So in this case, 1 gold, 1 gold, 1 gold. And that's what you can do to acquire that, is pay that. Up here, we've got a colony that requires swords. So in this case, it's 2 swords, 2 gold, 2 gold. And up here, obviously, 3 gold, 3 gold, 3 gold. So one of the things that you can do on your turn is re-roll if you'd like, where you give up one of these chits and you can re-roll any of the dice that you want. Another thing you can do is buy a tile. So I think that's what Rome's going to do to begin the game. So the very first thing they'll do is they'll spend 1 of their dice, and anything that you spend, any of your resources, moves to this space up here, the colored space for your country, your nation, actually. And so by spending that 1 coin, they can take anything here on the bottom row, and in this case, I think they're going to take the improvement, the elephant. So when you take a blue improvement tile, you come down here to your board, and you see you've got 5 spaces, and you just pick one of those spaces that you want to cover up. Let's say they're going to cover up the axeman with the elephant. So we can see here the space they've covered up the axeman has a white die, and we're covering it up with a red die. So what we need to do is get rid of one of our white dice, and it can be any unspent die or spent die, to claim a red die. So in this case, they're not going to give up one of their unspent die. So they're going to give up this one that they just used to acquire it. They put it back in the supply, and they pick a red die, and they get to immediately roll it, and they can use it on a future turn. So they roll that, and they get 2 swords. Now, the dice have different colors, and we can look at this chart here to see what that means. Basically, the white dice are even on all sides. You can get 1 of just about anything, but the red die is focused towards military, the blue die is focused towards books and stones, and the yellow die is focused towards food and gold. So by picking up the red die, they're able to get higher values. They got 2 swords with this roll, but they could have gotten 3 swords, which would have given them quite a lot of military strength. So They bought a tile that was an improvement for their civilization, and they gained a die and rolled it, and that's the end of their turn. It's Egypt's first turn of the round, and so they take all of their dice here, and they get to roll them, and so let's see what they get. They are rolling in some serious money here. They got 2 books and 4 money to spend. So looking at their roll, they see the books are going to give them a chance at the end of the round to move up this track here. And the way that works is at the end of the round, the player with the most books will get a point for every player that they are ahead of on the track, except for in the 2-player game where, since there's less players, you get 2 points if you are leading in books. If it's a tie, nobody gets any points. So they're already leading in books because they're the second player. They can cement their lead by keeping these 2 books here, or they could potentially re-roll them a little bit later. But they've got a ton of money to spend, and let's see how they're going to do it. So they're obviously going to go to the market. So let's say they take this 1 coin here. They're going to go for something cheap. Let's say they go and build a wonder. So, well, actually, they're buying a wonder. So they buy the wonder, and they bring it to this same brown space. You can only have 1 wonder at a time on your board. And basically, with the wonder being on your board, it means that it's under construction. So we're working on building the hanging gardens here. After we build it, we can move it off our board to somewhere down below, and we can have as many wonders as we want. In this case, to be able to build the wonder, we're going to have to give up 1 stone on a future turn. Basically, on your turn, you choose 1 action. It's going to be to either re-roll some of your dice, buy something from the market, or build one of these wonders, meaning give up stone equal to whatever is listed on the tile to be able to remove it from here and bring it down here, and then you'll get the benefit. In this case, you're going to get a permanent food chit as well as 1 victory point at the end of the game. So they went to the market, bought the hanging gardens. That's their turn. It's Rome's turn again, and they like the idea of keeping up with Egypt's amount of money. So what they're going to do here is spend this white die and the the coin chit, and so spend 2 gold to come up to the market. And now they can choose basically from this row, except they're not spending 2 swords, they're spending 2 gold. So they're choosing from either the Confucian Academy or the brewery. To get into the money game, they're going to want to get one of these yellow dice. So they're going to buy the brewery. They come back down here and they choose what they're going to replace. They could decide to replace their elephant if they want, but that doesn't really make a lot of sense because the colored dice are generally more powerful. So they're going to replace the farm with the brewery. So the farm, like all of these, has a white die, so we have to give up a white die to gain a yellow die. So they're going to give up this white die they've already spent, gain a yellow one, immediately roll it. They're hoping for a lot of coins, and they got the maximum they could, 3 coins. So we'll get to use that on a future turn. All right, back to Egypt. They've still got all of their money. They've now got the same as Rome because each player has 3 coins. So they're going to go to the market and they'll give up the die and the chit and come over here, spending 2 to get the Confucian Academy. And they'll bring it down here. They'll upgrade their farm as well, giving up 1 of their dice they've already spent to get a blue die. These dice have stones and books on them and pretty much nothing else. Just 1 stone, 2 stone, 2 books, 1 book, 3 books. It's a pretty powerful die for that. So they're hoping to get some stone so they can use it to build their hanging gardens. So they roll this die immediately. They got 2 books. So that's no big deal. They've got a re-roll, so they're going to be able to re-roll whatever dice they'd like to. And that was the end of their turn, buying the academy. Back here to Rome, they've got their 3 coins to spend at the market. They've also got 2 swords. And they could use those 2 swords to go to the market and buy the only colony available this age. It's Babylonia, so they're going to do just that. When you buy a colony, we can see there's no green spaces on your board. It just comes down here below there, and it acts as a permanent territory for you for the rest of the game. So Rome has taken over Babylonia, and the benefit of owning Babylonia as a colony is they will receive 1 of these extra chits here. So it's back to Egypt. Egypt's got 1 coin, and they could go to the market right now to spend it. They could also re-roll these dice that they've got. But I think what they're going to do is, while it's still cheap, they're going to spend that 1 coin to come here and grab the last cheap thing on the board in the market, which is a new leader. So they grab the leader, they bring it to their board, and we can see there's a space of the matching color. And what the leaders do is they give them extra re-roll chits. So this leader gives them 1 extra re-roll chit. We come over here, grab it from the supply. They put it over here in their unspent area, and now they can do 2 re-rolls because they know they want to probably change up what they've got here with so many books going on. They're going to do that on a future turn. So back to Rome. Rome's got quite a bit of money. They've even got this extra chit here. They've got 1 re-roll, and then looking at what they've got here, it's 1 sword, 1 food. Looking at the end of round bonuses, we can see one sword wins the war. They'll get a point if they keep that sword unspent, but it's going to take 2 food to avoid famine. They've only got 1 food here right now, so they could consider re-rolling this stone if they want to try to get more food before the end of the round. But right now, they're looking at the things that are in the top column of the market and seeing, or rather row, but they'll see what are they going to buy here. And it looks like they're going to spend this die, which is 3 coins, come up here. They've already got a military improvement in the elephant, so I think they'll go for the aqueduct. They'll come down here, and they'll have the aqueduct replace their quarry, so they're going to have to give up a white die to do that. So that's slightly unfortunate because the only white dice that they have left are unspent dice. And so in this case, they're going to decide to give up, well, let's just say the stone. So they give up the stone, and they get a blue die back, and they have to roll it immediately. We'll see what they get. In this case, it's a stone. Egypt is going to do the reroll action. So when you reroll, you give up one of your reroll chits, you put it here in the spent area, and you reroll your dice. You can reroll any of your dice, one of them or all of them. In this case, I think they're not too afraid of rerolling all of them and potentially giving up all of their books, because looking over here at Rome is not going to gain any books right now. So the chance of Rome catching up to them on the track here is nil unless Rome rerolls on a future turn. So they're willing to take that risk. They're going to reroll everything. So they do the reroll, and they come back with a bunch of stone and a coin. So when you reroll, that's it. That's all you get to do on your turn. You don't get to spend the dice that you reroll. But they're pretty happy. They've got stone here. They've got more than enough that on a future turn in this round, they can build those hanging gardens, which cost 1 stone. Coming back to Rome, they're looking at the board and saying, well, it's going to take 3 gold to be able to buy the trireme or the pyramids to put that under construction. So they're going to avoid doing that this round. They've actually not really got any good moves. So one of the things that they could do, if they want, is take any 2 of their dice and turn them in here for a gold, a stone, or a food. And we can see that it's on the bottom of this card here. I'll try to get it to come into focus. So 2 dice can be traded for 1 gold, 1 stone, or 1 food. But they don't really want to give up the sword, because that's going to help them win their war. They'd really like to be able to get a food here, but that's not going to happen from this die because it only gives them books or anything. So their best chance is to re-roll this and try to get books. They can't use the stone to build any of their wonders because they've got none under construction. They can't afford to buy those expensive pyramids, which will cost them 3 gold. So on their turn, they'll take their re-roll chit and they'll roll this blue die, and they'll see what they get. Actually, you know what? They're going to roll both of these dice because there's no chance they're going to get enough food. Okay, so they got another sword and they got 2 stones. So a little bit unlucky that they didn't get books, but you know, it's a dice game. So in this case, getting another sword actually does help them, because at the end of the round, the player with the most unspent swords becomes the first player in the next round. So this will help them stay first player when we go to the next round and we've refilled the whole market, and they'll have first dibs at buying whatever it is that they like. So coming back here, Egypt is up again, and they're going to spend this stone to build the hanging gardens. And so they bring it from the brown space down here below their track, and it's going to give them this 1 food. So we'll come here, grab that, if I can, here we go, and we'll put it down here in their unspent space, and they've also got that victory point at the end of the game. Coming back to Rome, Rome pretty much doesn't have anything they can do. They can't re-roll, they don't have any re-roll chits that are unspent. 1 coin isn't going to be able to buy anything from the market, and so they're pretty much done. So to denote being done for the round, what you do is you pass. So you rotate your card 90 degrees counterclockwise so that passed can be read, and they're basically done now. So Egypt can take as many turns as they want in succession until they're ready to pass. So in this case, let's have Egypt go ahead and use their reroll. They can't do anything with the money or the stone, so they're hoping for probably food or swords from this and books from this blue die. So they'll reroll both of them and see what they get. Actually, we put this chit over here. And so they got pretty much the same result. So a little bit unlucky, but that's okay because they've got 2 dice remaining, and they only need 1 thing here, which is to get enough food to avoid famine. They could turn these 2 dice into a food when it's time to avoid the famine. So combine that with this, and they'll have 2 food. So after that reroll, they're going to go again, and they're just going to choose to pass. So now the round is basically over. We need to do a little bit of resolving at the end of the round, and the first thing that we're going to resolve is books. So we look at who it wants to spend dice on books, and neither player actually has any books. So if this was something where they could spend books, we'd move them up on the track. Afterwards, we look at who has the most books, and in this case, it's still Egypt. And so what they do is they get a point. So we take their marker, move it from 0 points to 1 point, and they're done. The next thing we do is we look at famine, and each player can spend unspent food to avoid the famine. So we'll look at Rome. They don't have any food, so they can't avoid famine. They just miss out on that point. And as we said here, 1 food, and these 2 will count as a food. So they spend both of those for 2 food. Green gets another point. Next thing we do is we are going to determine the player order by who has the biggest military. In this case, it's not consulting that, but we just look at who has the most unspent swords. 2 swords unspent to 0. So that basically just means that Rome will maintain the first player for the next round. And then lastly, before we set up for the second round, we resolve war. So if you have 1 sword left that you can spend, you're going to get a victory point. Rome does. They'll go ahead and spend it here, and they'll get that 1 victory point. So at the end of the first round, each player is got 1 point and 2 points. That'll get a lot faster as the game progresses. Although we can see here that Egypt basically has 1 extra point from their wonder that they've built. So now that the round is over, what we do is we can get rid of this. It's done for the game. We'll be able to reveal that for the new round, it's going to take 2 food to avoid famine for 2 points and 3 swords to win a war for 2 points. And after that, before we are able to go to the next round, we have to clear out the market. So we just clear out all of these, and then we will refill the market from the number 2 stack. Okay, so we're pretty much all set to begin the next round. Each player can take their card and rotate it back, and we can see here that Rome is up first. So they take all of their things from their spent section back below their board, and to begin the round, they take their dice and they roll them. So let's put it all together. They've got 5 money, actually make that 6 money, a reroll, a stone, and some books to spend. So as first player, they get to hit the market first. We'll see what appeared this time. We've got a leader, a wonder, and a colony for very cheap. We've got some improvements on the second row, as well as another wonder, another colony, and a leader. And we can see here that some of these improvements give them 2 dice instead of 1. So that's a way to increase the number of dice from starting number of 5 to increase it, potentially all the way up to 10 dice. So before deciding what to do on their turn, Rome takes a look at the market, and they take a look at their opponent here. They see their opponent doesn't have any yellow dice upgrades, and there's only 1 yellow dice upgrade available in this age. Additionally, there are no red dice upgrades available in this age. So seeing that it's going to take 3 swords to win a war at the end, Rome feels like that being the only player with a red die, that's their best shot at getting those 3 swords that they need. In the case of Egypt, it's going to take 3 dice to get those 3 swords. So looking at the market, they're probably going to go with spending 2 coins and pick up this one and only yellow die that's available for the round in the form of the guild hall. So they'll replace their caravan with the guild hall. That means giving up the white die. So they'll give this one up that they just spent. They'll get back a white and a yellow die, and they'll immediately roll them and see what they get. 2 more coins. So the yellow die is capable of delivering a lot more than just 1 coin, so they may earmark that for a reroll in the future. They've got these 3 coins, which is pretty ideal, but they could also get 2 food from that yellow die, which might help them up here avoid the famine in the future. But as it stands, that's their turn. They've acquired a guild hall, and it's over to Egypt. So Egypt's first turn for the round, they take all of their spent things from the last round back. That includes all of these chits, the rerolls, and we'll try not to rotate their whole board here. Okay, so they've got to reroll their dice. And here we can see they've got 2 books, a stone, a food, and then we'll put these chits here to help us look at it. So 2 food, 2 coins, 2 books, and a stone, and some rerolls. So I think what they'll do is they'll jump on getting some dice upgrades. So they'll spend these 2 coins, come over here, grab the madrasa. Let's say they upgrade their temple, and they'll give up this white die that the temple provided them, and get back a white and a blue, and give those an immediate roll. And they got even more books, so they could cement themselves as the champion of books, which is basically worth 6 more points over the course of the game if they maintain it for all of the rounds. But it's very likely they're going to reroll here. They don't really have that much variety, but that's their turn. So coming back here to Rome, I think we'll see Rome spend a die here to go ahead and pick up a leader. This leader is pretty cheap, so they'll put that in there, and since they didn't have a leader, they're just going to pick up 2 reroll chits, and that'll help them on a future turn. Back to Egypt here. These dice aren't super helpful for them right now. They do see an opportunity to potentially build the Moai statues by spending this 1 stone here. Those Moai statues will give them 2 points at the end of the game. So I think what they'll do is they'll spend their reroll, and they'll go ahead and reroll all of these books and see what they get. Potentially a lot of stone, who knows. So they got 1 book, 1 coin, and a bunch of stone. They've still got a reroll left, so they can use that to adapt later. But rerolling is their entire turn, so we head back over here to Rome and see what they're going to do. Well, they've still got a lot of money. They've got 5 money, so they could use that to go pick up some nice stuff here. But like we said earlier, we kind of want one of these to turn into food for them to be able to get the points. We want this to turn into more swords for them to win the war. But it looks like that they might want to come in here and beat the Egyptian player to the Moai statues, since they've got no wonders so far. So they buy that, and it goes into their under construction space, and we can see it's only going to cost them 1 stone here to build it, which they happen to have on a future turn. So Egypt's not super happy about that right now, but thankfully they've got another reroll, and so considering the only thing that they could do right now is reroll, there's nothing they can afford in the market, that's exactly what they're going to do. So they'll use their next reroll, and they will reroll, let's say, all of their stone, and they're just going to risk it and see what they get. And this book. So they'll reroll all of these dice. They've got a sword, more food, books, and 2 stones. So what they're going to do here is plan for the future, I guess. They've got no more rerolls, but they can potentially use some of these to get what they need, which could mean money to acquire something. They could use this sword to take over England. Egypt takes England, apparently, in this game. We'll see what happens, but the reroll is their entire turn, so we're back to Rome. Back to Rome, and what they're going to do is take this yellow die with the 3 gold, come up here and grab the watermill. So this will come and replace their temple, which means they're going to give up this white die to get a white and a blue. So they'll bring those back here and roll them. They got another coin, as well as 2 books, and that's their turn. So coming back here to Egypt, while it's still cheap, they're going to use this sword to come over here in the 1 row to pay 1 sword to take over England. So just as we said, Egypt has taken over England in this world. They're going to get a coin chit for that, so we'll grab that really fast. Bring it over here, and that was their turn. Returning to Rome, they see an opportunity to try to get this Moai statue built, so they'll spend the stone to go ahead and get that off of their space here, hoping that maybe they'll be able to pick up the Hagia Sophia before Egypt does, but we'll see what happens. So Egypt doesn't like the idea of Rome getting another wonder, so they are actually going to spend these 2 coins, the last that they have, to come over here and pick up the Hagia Sophia and put it under construction, and they're going to hope to build it either this round or in the beginning of the next round. So coming back to Rome, they want to set some of their plans in motion here, hoping to complete some of the end of round objectives. We can see they need 3 swords and 2 food. They don't have either right now. They have 1 sword, a bunch of coins. It's a possibility they can get the food from these dice right here. So what they're going to do is go ahead and re-roll some of their dice, so use their re-roll, and they're going to re-roll all of these. They're going to hope for the triple sword and the double food. And what they've ended up with is a stone, a coin, and double food. So double food's pretty useful to them. The single coin, not so much, and neither is the stone. They've still got 2 reroll chits, so they've got 2 more chances left in this round to get there. Back to Egypt. Well, they don't have any money. They can't buy anything. Just about everything that's left is super expensive. 3 swords to get the Saharan trade, and 3 coins to get a new leader. But basically, their best shot here is to try to use these stone here to build the Hagia Sophia. We zoom in on this, we can see it's going to take 3 stone. They've only got 2. So unfortunately, they can't pay for it right now. But they're willing to give up this triple books, which could ultimately be worth some points to them. But they're going to use these 2 dice here as 1 stone. So the special 2 dice to be traded for 1 stone, it's a little bit lossy for them, but they really like the idea of getting this wonder built now. So they'll use those to be 1 stone, in addition to the 2 stone from their other die to be 3 stone total, and they'll get this built. So they'll put it in here next to the Hanging Gardens, and it's going to be worth 3 points at the end of the game, and they're also going to get a coin chit that they can use on the future round. Back to Rome, They love the idea that Egypt has given up their triple books because they've got 3 books right here. So they might just leave those as is, and they'll be able to leapfrog over the Egyptian player in the books track. And that'll give them some points at the end of this round. But they're still going to go after those swords, so they're going to use another reroll and hope that they're going to get it here. They've got the food that they need. They ended up with double swords, which isn't terrible, and another book, which if they're going for the lead isn't terrible either. Help them keep it for future rounds. But that's their turn. Coming back here to Egypt, they pretty much got nothing left to do, so they're going to pass. And so we jump right back here to Rome. They've still got a reroll, and they're going to go for broke and do it again here. Hope for the triple sword. The double sword is helpful, but it's not enough to get the 3 swords they need to win the war. So they're just going to go for it and roll both of these. And they come up just short. It's kind of a janky dice roll, but still. It's a dice game, and you get lucky sometimes. Sometimes you don't. Rome is going to pass. So that's the end of the round, and now we need to look at books and see who's going to spend some. So we can come down here to Rome, see that they are going to spend these 2 dice to get 3 books on the track. So we move them up, 1, 2, 3, and they hop past the green player. So Egypt has no books, so they won't be able to move up the track anymore. So I actually realized I made a small mistake here at the end of the previous round. The person in the 2-player game who is leading in books actually gets 2 points, and I gave green player 1. So green player would actually be on 3 points here right now instead of 2. But in this case, Rome is leading on books, so they're going to get those 2 points at the end of this round, and they will tie the green player currently. Next, we're going to look at the famine and see who can complete that. We can see here, Rome has this die, which will give them the 2 food that they need to gain the 2 points. And so does Egypt have 2 food. So both players are going to get 2 points here. And then we are going to look at who has the most military strength. In this case, Rome has 2 military strength to Egypt's none. So the first player will stay as Rome. And then lastly, looking at who has 3 military strength to complete a war, neither player does, so nobody's going to get those points. So the round is over, and we're going to begin setting up for the next round. This is the 3rd age, where we're going to need 4 food to avoid famine and 3 swords. We'll get 3 points for each of those if we do it. And then lastly, we're just going to need to clear out the market and refill from the number 3 stack. So Rome's ready to start the 3rd round, so they'll grab all of their dice from their spent area, as well as all of these chits here, and give their dice a roll to start the round. Okay, so they've got some food, they've got some coins, and some stone, a little bit of everything. I actually rolled one of the dice off the table. I'll grab that. So Rome's all set up. They're going to take this die right here to come up here to the market and grab the Himeji Castle, which is worth 3 points if they can build it with 2 stone. It's Egypt's turn, so they need to claim everything back from their spent area as usual. Can be a little tricky to do with one hand. Okay, time to roll their dice. Okay, so they've got 2 stone, 2 coins, and 2 books, plus a bunch of extra chits here that will help them out. Okay, so food and rerolls. All right, so they're all set and ready to go. So what we'll do is we'll send them to the market with a coin and just 1 coin, it looks like. So they'll go ahead and pick up this sawmill. It's worth 2 yellow dice, and so they'll replace their quarry. They'll give up this die, come over here to the supply, grab 2 of them, and immediately roll them. Here they've picked up 2 more food, as well as 3 coins, and that's their turn. So Rome sees all of the money that Egypt has, and is a little afraid of them picking up this frigate here, which is going to give them 2 red dice. So far they've kept Egypt away from red dice, which has kept them from being able to fight their wars. So in this case, I think what we're going to see Rome do is spend all 3 of their coins to come up here and build the frigate. And what they'll do is they'll replace their brewery, which was 1 yellow die. So they will give up this one that's already been spent. We'll get rid of the brewery tile. We can just go ahead and put that back here on these unspent areas. And we need to pick up 2 red dice for that frigate and roll them right now. So what they've picked up is 3 swords and some more stone. So those 3 swords are pretty great because it's going to help them get 3 points by winning this war at the end of the round. So Egypt isn't super happy about that, but they do have a plan. So they're going to come up here, spend 2 coins, and go ahead and pick up the Taj Mahal and put that under construction. For an age 3 wonder, it's worth 5 points at the end of the game if they can get 4 stone in there. That's a pretty good return, and so they're going to hope to be able to maybe convert these 2 blue dice into double stone to be able to pay for it. Back to Rome, and they see that they've got 2 food here. They've got what they need to win the war. It's going to take 4 food to avoid famine. They could get this to a double food, but not anything better than that. So right now they've got a lot of stone. They're just going to see it as their opportunity here to go ahead and pay for the Himeji castle. So they'll go ahead and spend the 2 stone, build the Himeji castle down here. Doesn't give them any kind of effect. It does give them 3 points. Heading back to Egypt here, they see an opportunity for additional improvement. They're going to spend these 2 dice, so 2 coins, go for terrace farming, replace their caravan, which means giving this up, to get 2 yellow dice, and they'll roll them immediately. So we'll give those a quick roll. So they've got even more food and 2 more coins. Rome is going to take one of their reroll chits here and reroll all of these dice. Most of them aren't super helpful for them. They could potentially give a better result. So re-rolling, they've got more swords, some books, a stone, and double food. It's not a great re-roll, but they can definitely go back at it. They've got 2 more here, and it's back to Egypt. So Egypt's still got a lot of money, and they've got some spaces that they could upgrade. But before they do that, I think they're going to want to try to see what they can get, see if they can build this Taj Mahal here. So they'll also do a re-roll. They'd like these to both turn into double stone, but to assist in that, they're going to re-roll these books as well. So we'll see them go ahead and roll these dice, and they've ended up with a double stone, a single stone, and 2 coins. So not terrible. They could actually turn these 2 coins into a stone and build the Taj Mahal in this round if they want. Okay, the re-roll is it, so it's back to Rome. Rome is going to do another re-roll here, and they're hoping to basically get some more food. So they're going to go ahead and just re-roll all of these and see what they get. And they've ended up with a ton of swords, so that's not terrible. But realistically, they would have liked to get some food. All right, heading back here to Egypt, I think we'll see them do exactly what we were talking about, which will be to spend these 2 as a stone and these 3 stones to build the Taj Mahal. And that's worth a whopping 5 points, which is pretty good for an age 3 wonder. All right, heading back here, we're going to see Rome use this 2 swords, and they'll use it to go ahead and claim the Aztec Empire. So they've taken over the Aztecs and Babylonia. This is worth a point to them at the end of the game. It's also going to get them another one of these coin chits, which they can spend on a future turn. So heading back over here to Egypt, they're going to take this yellow die and spend it and come up here and be the inventor of the printing press. We'll see them upgrade their axemen, which means giving up one of these white die that they spent to convert into a stone previously, to get 2 blue dice, and they'll give those a roll right now. They've ended up with 3 books, which will be useful to help overtake the red player here on the books track, which is great. They can make sure they get those 2 points, or at least don't lose the lead. So, but that reroll is all they get to do. So Rome certainly has a lot of military strength. They've got more than enough to win the battle that they've got there. But they're happy with moving 2 steps ahead here, and they could see themselves potentially using some of these resources to turn them into food. So unfortunately, it's unlikely they're going to get 4 food. So it's probably in their best interest to go ahead and re-roll and see what they get. They can get 2 food out of these 2 dice, which is quite unlikely, but it'll help them get some big points. So we'll see what they get. Pretty much the same result. So let's head back to Egypt. Egypt's still got a little bit of money. They've got plenty of food here to complete the famine requirement. It's not quite enough money to do anything here to buy anything substantial, but what they can do is go ahead and spend that, and they can change their leader out, and they can have their leader become Elizabeth. So by replacing their previous leader, they're giving up one of their chits here for re-rolling. So they have to spend 1. In this case, actually, they will spend their spent 1. And they will send this back to the pile here, and they get 2 re-roll chits back. So they've now got 3 re-rolls if they would like. Heading back to Rome, they've got no re-rolls. These 2 coins can't do anything for them. It's not enough to get them food, the food that they need. So they're pretty much done for the round, so they will go ahead and pass. Back to Egypt, they've got a bunch of re-rolls. It's potentially useful for them to go ahead and re-roll this die. There's no way they can turn it into a wonder this turn unless they were willing to give up some of their food by re-rolling these yellow dice. But it could turn into books. So they're going to go ahead and re-roll this and hope for 3 books. And that's exactly what they've got. So they're going to now keep those dice, and then since it's their turn again, they're just going to pass and end the round. So it's the end of the round, and we're going to go ahead and look at books right now. So everybody's going to get to spend their books. Rome is going to spend this to get 2 books. So we'll go ahead and move Rome up to the 6th spot, and we can see 6 books to Egypt. We'll move them up to the 9th spot. So we now award Egypt points for that. They're going to get 2 points. They'll move from 5 to 7. And now we can move on to famine. So for food, we'll get you 3 points. We can see here that Egypt has just that for food. So they'll go ahead and move 1, 2, 3 points here. And Rome came up a little bit short. They couldn't quite get the food that they needed. They could turn these into 1 food, but that's still 1 food short. So they're going to miss out on that bonus. Next, we look at military strength, 6 swords to 0. It seems like Egypt is really just not going to be a military force in this game. So Rome will retain first player, and then now they can fight their war. So they'll go ahead and turn those dice in. They'll get 3 points. And that'll keep them within touching distance of Egypt, who's really only ahead because of their win in books up here on this track. At the end of the game, we're going to be adding up some of these extra points that we've got here. So that's what we're going to be doing in the 4th round, is a little bit of a rush for points. So we'll reveal the last event for the final round, and we can see it's going to take 4 food and 5 swords to get these bonus points, and then we'll refill the market as well. Okay, so to begin this round, the final round, we'll have Rome roll all of their dice. We'll try to keep them on the table here. Okay, so they've got some stone, swords, some food, coins, plenty of coins. Okay, so looking at the final event, 4 food is going to be required, 5 swords. They've now got those 5 swords here, so they're pretty much set if they just hold on to those. The last round, this final age, is a little bit different. We can see here that none of these tiles in the market have any dice showing on them. This basically means there's no upgrades to be had in this round. In fact, we can see these 2 blue tiles, they show no dice, so that means if you were to buy them, you actually give up dice. So ideally, you've already spent them, and you're acquiring these blue tiles for the points they give you, when none of the other blue tiles from the previous rounds are going to give you points. So it's a point sort of grabbing fest here in the last round, and so that's going to be the focus, a little bit of the shift from engine building to just optimization for your build. So looking at what's available, I think Rome is just going to earmark these for those 4 points, and they're probably going to try to target building some wonders. They've got 3 stone here to be able to do that, and they could potentially turn some of these other dice into stone. But looking at what's up here, wonder-wise, there's quite a few things. 6 stone, 4, 5, 5. So they're probably going to avoid the Suez Canal. It's worth a ton of points, 8 points, but I'm not sure they're going to be able to get that much stone to be able to build it. So to begin the round, I think we'll see Rome spend 1 coin to acquire the South Pole Expedition. They could have been a little bit more risky and gone for the Statue of Liberty, which would have been worth 2 more points. They're not entirely sure they're going to be able to get the 5 stone required. The South Pole is going to require 4. So they're being a little bit more conservative here, but that'll be their turn. And then coming over here to Egypt, it'll be their first turn of the round, so we'll go ahead and roll all of their dice. All right, a good mixture of things here. We've got some coins and more food, a lot of books. Bring those over here. And lastly, a sword and some stone. So Egypt's in a pretty good place to be able to build a bunch of these wonders here this round because they got so many blue dice. They're already leading in books, so they might get those 2 points at the end of the round. So they might be willing to just give up all of these extra books here to try to turn those into stone instead for building those wonders, which could be worth far more than 2 points. You know, we see 7, 8, 7, 5. It's probably a better return for their dice. So we'll see Egypt initially come in here, and they'll spend these 2 to go ahead and buy that Statue of Liberty that Rome was afraid to get, which will be those 5 stone that it'll be required. Let's hop here back to Rome. They've still got a decent amount of money, so they can go shopping. But before they go and do that, it probably makes sense for them to try to re-roll and get that stone that they need. So let's have them go ahead and do a re-roll. They'll re-roll this 1 blue die, hoping to get it to 2 stone. And just because they've got a lot of money, let's get these in there as well. We'll hope those turn to stone. They really just need 2. Well, they got 1 that they needed here, so that's not terrible. They got some books and more money. but they can always do a reroll again to try to get another additional stone here. So looking back at Egypt, I think they're going to do the same thing, which is to reroll, and they're going to get rid of this, and let's say this as well. They don't really have a hope of getting the 5 swords they're going to need to win the war. They've been so pushed out of combat in this game that it's really not, an opportunity for them to pick up those points. So the reroll, we can see they've picked up more books, but they got a double stone. So on a future turn, they've still got 2 more rerolls. They could potentially get that stone that they need. Coming back here, and we'll see Rome go ahead and do another reroll. And they will reroll this, and hope for getting that stone that they need. And they did, they got it. So actually we can go ahead and sub that out. And they've now got the 4 stone they're going to need to build the South Pole expedition. Egypt will reroll again and try to turn these books into stone. They really just need 2, and they've got it. So they've got 3 books here and some more food. That will total 4 food, which will get them to that extra 4 points there if they so choose to use that for that. And these 3 books, which could be useful in helping them make sure they get those extra 2 points there. So let's go ahead and jump back here to Rome. And Rome is capable of building the South Pole Expedition Wonder, but before they do that, I think what they're going to do is jump in here with 2 coins and make Marie Antoinette their new leader. So we can see here that they replace Sejong the Great, and they have to give up these 2 reroll chits. Well, they can give up the 2 that they used previously for rerolling this round, and they'll send this leader to the sack. And Marie Antoinette is going to be worth 2 points for them at the end of the game. I guess she doesn't get beheaded in Rome. So let's go ahead and jump back to Egypt. So in Egypt, they've now got what they need here to build the Statue of Liberty. And there's really no rush unless they were worried about Rome coming in here and grabbing one of these and potentially building it. It's worth noting that any of the wonders that you have under construction at the end of the game aren't worth anything to you. So it only is useful if you can go ahead and complete it. Well, they see an opportunity to do something similar to what Rome just did. So they're going to give up this yellow die and these coins here, and they will replace Elizabeth with, we'll go ahead and put her back, with Nikola Tesla. And Elizabeth had 2 reroll chits that'll have to go away. These were both spent previously anyway. So basically Egypt has just negated Rome's 2-point move there. So we jump back to Rome, and we'll see that they're going to go ahead and build the expedition. So they'll spend that 4 stone to go ahead and build this for 5 points. Back to Egypt here, they'll go ahead and do the same thing. They will spend 5 stone to build the Statue of Liberty, which will be worth 7 points. And back to Rome. So they've got money to spend, and they've got a stone and a book, which could be turned into something else if they want. They've got plenty of swords to get the bonus there. They're wondering if there's anything useful for them to be able to get out of this board. So I think what they're going to look at doing is potentially doing one of these upgrades, just to eke out a couple extra points. There's no real good hope of them getting 4 stone here for the British Museum, so they're probably out of the Wonders game for the rest of the game. They'll go ahead and re-roll. So they'll re-roll these. They're going to hope for single coins. Well, they got double stone. So Egypt has the 4 food that they need here, and they've got a re-roll. Now the thing is, these yellow dice could produce double food, which could be used to basically accomplish this famine requirement here. So they could re-roll them and sort of let this die loose to do something else, but that's pretty risky. So I think they're just going to go ahead and avoid that and set themselves up. They think they've got a good chance to win, so they're just going to go ahead and pass. Let's jump back to Rome and see what they're going to do. We'll see them spend these 2 dice as 1 coin, so 2 stone as 1 coin, and they'll go ahead and build the railroad. So we'll have them go ahead and build this railroad over top of their aqueduct, and maybe it's a rail on their aqueduct, who knows. So that's going to mean they're going to give up a blue die, and so we'll get rid of this, and one of their blue dice, and that's gone. They don't get anything back except a point. It's their turn again, and we'll see them overspend here, 3 coins, and they'll do the urban center, and they'll build that over their water mill. That'll mean they have to give up a white and a blue. They just so happen to have these here. So those are gone, and so is the water mill. And it's their turn again if they so choose to do anything. In this case, they really can't do anything with the food. They want to use this for the war, so they're going to pass as well. So we've reached the end of the last age. So we do the normal resolving here, and we look at who is going to spend books. We see that Egypt will spend these 3 books to jump 1, 2, 3 ahead, and so they've cemented first place ahead of Rome. So we'll see them get 2 points for that. Next, we'll look at the famine, and we can see that Egypt is capable of avoiding famine with their 4 here, so they will get 4 more points. I hope I did that correctly. No, 1 more. There we go. And we can see Rome does not have enough food to pay for this, so they're going to avoid that. And it's the flip side here for war. We don't need to determine player order because it's the end of the game. Rome is going to spend 5 swords to get 4 points. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now it's time to add up the extra points that we've got from our improvements. So we'll look at Rome here, and they've got 2 points for Marie Antoinette, and then 2 points for the urban center and railroad total, so 4 points there. So we'll give them those 4 points. 1, 2, 3, 4. And they've tied red, temporarily at least. And they get 1 point for having the Aztec Empire, plus 5, plus 3, plus 2. So that's another 11 points. So we'll see them jump up here to 27, and that will be their final score. Let's do Egypt. 2 points. They've got no other improvements, so we'll go ahead and just give them those 2. And then we'll add up all of these. So it's 7 plus 5 plus another 4 is 16 points. So they'll jump to 28 plus another 6 is, I think, 34. So that's the final score of the game. Egypt has beaten Rome by a score of 34 to 27. And that's Nations the Dice Game. So just a few final thoughts on Nations the Dice Game. I think it's fast and it's fun. I mean, the fast part really helps the game out a lot. The original Nations is a lot longer game. It's a meatier game, of course. But Nations is a distillation of that. Nations, the dice game, is a good distillation of that. It really gets a feeling of growth, collecting more dice than what you started with. They're more powerful, their results. And, this board is going to show you different things each game. And while it's somewhat limited, you're not going to see all the tiles every game. These events are really just variations on each other, but they're a little bit different every game as well. And depending on what your players do, you may get pushed out of military, but it may not matter. You might be able to win anyway. And so it's a pretty little interesting game, and it doesn't take very long to play. The component quality is okay. Illustrations are functional. It's not my favorite looking game. I will say, compared to the original Nations, the new box for this game is excellent. I know it seems kind of minor, but I did notice that as soon as I kind of grabbed hold of it. I was like, wow, this is a really nice box along the same quality of Terra Mystica or something along those lines. Minor sort of point, obviously, but overall I enjoy the game. It's really fast, and you can use it as a filler. You can get that little Civ building itch in there by playing this game, and so I would recommend you give it a try. Nations the Dice Game, and I hope this video was useful for you, so thanks a lot for watching.